Alrighty guys, welcome back to Star Wars Review. Today I'm reviewing Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 2, which is from head writer Jennifer Corbett and supervising director Brad Waugh, and story editor Matt Mitchevitz, and stars D. Bradley Baker as The Bad Batch and Michelle Ang as Omega. And each episode was written and directed by numerous writers and directors, and consisted of 16 episodes which were released from January 4th, 2023 to March 29th, 2023, which I really enjoyed the second season. I thought it took everything from the first season and just built on it. I thought it worked just as well as the first season. I'd say I enjoyed it pretty much the same as the first season, which it does follow the same general structure of the season. It's pretty similar there. There's some Adventure of the Week kind of episodes, then some more serious overarching story episodes, and then some will do a bit of both. Which one thing I think this season did better was those Adventure of the Week episodes. There's just more of them what I was really into this season than last season, but also that I continue to have great more serious episodes and overarching story episodes also, which I can pretty much name every episode as a favorite of mine. I'd say the only episode I wasn't that into was episode 10, Retrieval, but even then I still didn't mind it that much. But to name some episodes, episode 4, Faster, and episode 5, Entombed, which I thought there were some very fun Adventure of the Week kind of episodes, but I also thought they gave some nice character moments also. But my favorite episodes of the season were the Crosshair ones. There's episode 3, The Solitary Clone, and episode 12, The Outpost, which were episodes where were mainly just about Crosshair. There's also episode 14, Tipping Point, which features Crosshair heavily also, which those were the only 3 episodes he's heavily featured in. I think he's also briefly in the season finale episode, but I think that's only like at the very end. I don't even think he has any lines, but in those couple episodes he's in, I really love them. You kind of start to see him doubt the Empire, and because of other clones doing the same. In the episode 3, The Solitary Clone, we see him team up with Commander Cody, who ends up doing that and deserts the Empire at the end of the episode. We don't know, what his actual fate was, if he was just killed by the Empire or what. Don't know. Maybe we'll find out in the next season, but I just really love the arc Crosshair goes on throughout this season. Obviously, like I said, he only really appears in 3 episodes. I wish we got more of him, but when we did get him, it was some of the best stuff from the season. But for the most part, the rest of the episodes focus on the Bad Batch and the clones as a whole, which I, like I said, enjoyed a lot of those episodes. Obviously, there's the 2-part, mid-season episodes, episode 7 and 8. Episode 7 actually doesn't have the Bad Batch at all. It focuses on the clones on Coruscant, and then the next part kind of brings the Bad Batch into that story, which I really enjoyed those 2 episodes. The 2-part season finale, episode 15 and 16, I really enjoyed also. But then there were some great episodes, mainly more about the Bad Batch. I really enjoyed episode 9, The Crossing. Episode 13, Pabu, was another one I enjoyed. But I just really enjoyed the structure of the season. Enjoyed Adventure of the Week episodes, while also enjoying some of the more serious episodes and some of the more overarching story episodes. Which some of the overarching story stuff I liked. Obviously I mentioned stuff of Crosshair earlier, but obviously with the Bad Batch, we mainly see Hunter trying to find a normal life for Omega, while also butting heads with Echo, who thinks they should be fighting the Empire and help save the clones, which, throughout the entirety of the season, including the Adventure of the Week episodes, I guess really the biggest overarching story was, and this is also for season 1 also, is this how the clones live and survive after the Clone Wars and whatnot, which has been some of my favorite stuff from the series so far. But to dive more into some of the characters and whatnot, the first season, I did feel like characters like Echo and Tech didn't get as much to do in that season, but this season was the opposite. I felt like they got a lot to do and had a lot of great character development. Definitely Tech, which this season really made him my favorite member of the Bad Batch, and also just one of my favorite Star Wars characters as a whole. I just really loved everything with him this season. Like I mentioned earlier, there's the episode Faster, which is more of an adventure of the week type of episode, but he was kind of the main character of that one, which I enjoyed. But another episode was The Crossing, which that episode, kind of dived a lot more into Tech as a person, I guess. A lot of great moments between him and Omega. As in the previous episode, we see Echo leave the Bad Batch, which I'll dive into that more in a moment. And, obviously Omega is upset about it and whatnot, and she doesn't think Tech is showing that in the right way. And so it kind of dives into how he feels about it and whatnot, and, how the way he might show it is different than the way Omega does, but it's still fine. And so then they kind of start to come to an understanding a little more. So I really loved that episode with him, but everything with him I just really loved this season. But like I said, with Echo, also expand upon him as a character. Definitely expanding on what we saw in the season 1 episode. I think it was episode 14, War Mantle, which, is kind of him butting heads with Hunter about what the Bad Batch should be doing, which is helping the clones. And like I said, halfway through the season in episode 8, we see him leave the Bad Batch to team up with Rex to help the clones out. Which one thing I do wish we got to see was just a singular episode with him and Rex doing that. Obviously, there's some moments later on in the season where we do see that, but it's not an entire episode. So I do wish we got to see that, but I'm fine with what we got, and I really liked that development. Obviously, it does kind of mean he actually might have had less screen time than he did in season 1, but the screen time he did have in season 2 was just more impactful, I guess. But one thing I will say is I do feel like, because we got more with those characters, I feel like we didn't get as much with Wrecker this season. Obviously, he's still a lot of fun to watch, so I still really enjoyed everything with him, but wish we got a little bit more with him. And obviously, Hunter and Omega continue to be the two main characters, and I continue to really love them too. I'd say Hunter doesn't really have any crazy big development. He kind of continues the course he was on with the first season, which is, kind of finding a new home for Omega, finding a better life for Omega than one of war, which isn't really what he probably should be doing, because he should be fighting the Empire, which obviously at the end of the very end of the season, we kind of see him finally come to that conclusion. But like I said, continued to like him, and obviously Omega continued to like, and we see her continue to grow up more and more as her relationships with the other members of the Bad Batch continue to grow, but also other characters, like the one new character, Figiana, which I'll dive into those characters more in a moment. But I continue to like Omega and where her character went this season. Obviously, I already talked a little bit about Crosshair, so I won't dive too much into him, but once again, I really loved Crosshair this season and how we see him started out the Empire and whatnot. But there was several new and returning supporting characters. The villain Rampart returns, which I continue to enjoy him, but he ends up getting replaced with a new main villain halfway through the season named Hemlock, who is a similar-ish villain to Rampart in that he's a little more soft-spoken, but instead of military, he's like a scientist who's seemingly trying to do some clone stuff, like using the clones and whatnot, for something for the Empire. Obviously, he only appears in a few episodes in the later half of the season, so we don't really know the full extent of what his villainous plans are, but from what we got so far, I really liked him. I'd say I liked him more than Rampart, but excited to see where he goes in the next season. Obviously, we see Sid return, which she's not in this season as much as, obviously she's kind of a bad person and doesn't do a lot of great stuff to the Bad Batch, and throughout the season we kind of see the Bad Batch stop being a acquaintance to Sid and whatnot, which in the end they end up having to go back to her, and she turns on them. But we do see a new character named Figiana, who's a friend of Sid and is like a treasure hunter, which after kind of breaking off with Sid, the Bad Batch go to her, which she's seemingly actually a good person unlike Sid, so I enjoyed that. And she takes the Bad Batch to this planet with an island called Pabu, like I mentioned in the episode of the same name, which is kind of a safe haven away from the Empire. Then there's several clones returning. We see Rex and Cody return, which I already kind of talked about them already. We get introduced to new ones. One I really liked was Mayday in the episode The Outpost, where we see him interact with Crosshair a lot. And then there's a bunch of other new and returning characters, but the characters I mentioned were mostly the main ones. But on the visual side, I once again really enjoyed it. The Star Wars animation continues to get better and better, and so I really loved the animation and visuals this season. Obviously, once again, the score from Kevin Kiner continued to be great. Obviously, there's a lot of several returning themes from the first season, but one of the newer stuff I enjoyed was the kind of newer theme for Crosshair used in the couple episodes season. I really, really love that stuff. So yeah, but that's really everything I have to say about this season. I once again really enjoyed it, and I'm excited to see where it's going for what's going to be the final season with the third one. But my grade for season 2 is going to be an A-. So yeah, but that's going to be it for this one. You can check out my reviews on all 16 episodes of season 2 and my season 1 reviews also. But I've been Star Wars Review, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
It is time for a new era. There are others out there who need our help. We'll take all the